And Big John Fury, the fighting man, 100 on the hard road. Fight any man born from his mother, whatever that means. Well, anyway, he's been given the opportunity to fight the Cobra. He said, I'll fight you. He's called it out, hasn't he? He's going to give 75% of the money to charity as well. I mean, he talks some waffle, doesn't he? But it's gone to the stage where the broadcasters are quite interested, and he's making demands now, unreasonable demands about trying to get Tommy Fury on to fight before.
Karl Froch has now reacted strongly to John Fury making excuses and placing unreasonable demands ahead of their potential fight. In his response, Froch openly criticized John Fury for constantly creating unnecessary drama around his son, Tommy Fury, arguing that very few fans are actually interested in watching Tommy's fights, and that John is simply making loud statements without ever backing them up with real action. Froch explained that instead of pushing for genuine competition, John Fury keeps stirring controversy and attention without committing to anything serious inside the ring. He also pointed out that John had already been offered several chances to fight before, including a proposed bout against Joe Egan, where a massive seven-figure purse was reportedly placed on the table for him. According to Froch, that opportunity alone should have been enough motivation for John Fury to step forward and prove himself, yet he chose to turn it down and make excuses rather than accept the challenge. Froch believes this pattern clearly shows that John Fury prefers talking and building drama more than actually stepping into the ring to settle things properly. In Froch's view, the constant noise and complaints only distract from real boxing competition and create unnecessary headlines that ultimately lead nowhere meaningful for the fans who want to see genuine fights happen.
He put a blockade in there with his son Tommy, which is ridiculous because, let's be honest, no one gives a shit about Tommy fighting. Who cares? We watched him against... who's that YouTuber? Fake Paul. Watch that fight, and Tommy's done nothing since. He pulled out against Darren Till, and he's done fuck all since, so no one's bothered. It's Big John Fury running his mouth, big gobshite, making a load of noise, making a nuisance of himself. He looked like a right pillock, didn't he, at that press conference last week. So then he gets offered the opportunity. He's been offered the opportunity before to fight Joe Egan, let's be honest, and he bottled it, Mickey Theo. But the Joe Egan's the big one. Joe Egan stuck it on him and put loads out there to say, I'll fight you. And Misfits would probably show that. And John Fury has got no intentions of fighting anybody, including Joe Egan and myself. And he's had the option put in front of him. It's going to be X amount of pounds, and it's seven figures as well. And he's just said, oh no, I want to get Tommy on, and made an excuse and talked bollocks.
Furthermore, Karl Froch also dismissed John Fury as someone who constantly calls people out and loudly claims he's willing to fight anyone, yet in reality shows no real intention of actually stepping into the ring when the moment arrives. Froch explained that John Fury regularly talks about being the toughest man around or the hardest 50-year-old still standing, but when genuine opportunities begin to appear and real fights are placed in front of him, he suddenly finds reasons to avoid them rather than accept the challenge. According to Froch, this pattern has become obvious over time because John Fury repeatedly builds hype with bold statements and public challenges, only to step away when those challenges could finally turn into an actual bout. Froch believes that even when potential matchups have reportedly been offered to John Fury, the outcome has been the same, with excuses or changing demands replacing the confident talk that came before. From Froch's perspective, all of these repeated rants, dramatic call-outs, and aggressive statements amount to nothing more than empty bravado designed to create noise and attention rather than lead to a real contest in the ring. Because of this, Froch argues that people should stop taking John Fury's threats about fighting seriously and instead simply ignore the constant challenges, since in his opinion, they rarely result in any genuine action.
Ranting and raving and calling anybody out and saying he'll fight anybody, just know that he's absolutely talking pure gobshite, because that's what he does. So the guy just needs to go away. He needs ignoring. I mean, I ignored him last time. That's why, because I know he's just full of shit. But now it's been confirmed. He's got no intentions of fighting anybody, including myself. After all his mouth and all his running his gob and talking shit, and he'll fight any man, and he's the hardest man in the bloody, hardest, whatever he said. I can't remember what he said. The hardest 50-year-old in the world. He's not going to get in the ring and start throwing punches, ever. So he needs to go on.
However, Karl Froch strongly criticized John Fury, accusing him of repeatedly targeting smaller or widely respected figures within the boxing world while relying more on loud talk, intimidation, and public confrontations instead of genuine competition inside the ring. Froch pointed to several incidents that, in his view, clearly reflect this pattern of behavior, including Fury's heated confrontation with Carl Frampton during a press conference in the United States, as well as a more recent clash with Steve Bunce. According to Froch, these moments show how John Fury often chooses public arguments and dramatic encounters rather than focusing on legitimate boxing challenges. Froch argued that repeatedly confronting respected individuals in the sport creates unnecessary controversy and draws attention away from the athletes who are actually competing at the highest level. In his opinion, this type of behavior gives the impression that Fury prefers intimidation and verbal aggression instead of proving himself through proper competition. Froch also suggested that these actions make John Fury appear more like a bully than a serious participant in the sport, especially when the confrontations involve people who are not even active fighters in a ring. Because of this, Froch believes such incidents ultimately damage the reputation and image of professional boxing, turning important boxing events and press conferences into moments of conflict rather than opportunities to promote the sport in a respectful and professional way for fans around the world.
Such a big loudmouth gobshite who's done all, living off his son's name. And it actually winds me up when I think about when he started on Carl Frampton, a good friend of mine, top pundit analyst, ex-world champion. He started on the smallest man in the room at the Usyk press conference, headbutted him. He had to go to Steve Bunce last week. He constantly does it. And then he stuck it on me. But you know what? I feel like I might be the chosen one. I feel like it might be my job to finally shut this big gobshite up. All he does is run around, running his mouth, beating his chest, the ultimate man and all that bollocks. So John, for one final time, listen to me so it goes into that thick skull. I accept your challenge. But know one thing. When that first bell goes, I'm going to come over to your corner and absolutely stick it on you, Cobra style, and set about you and make a mess of you. You know why? Because you're a bully. And you need putting in your place. You're a bully and you're making a mockery of this sport, professional.
Furthermore, several professionals across the boxing world later shared their opinions on the growing feud between Carl Froch and John Fury, offering mixed reactions to the very public dispute and the wider controversy surrounding Fury's outspoken conduct and constant involvement in heated exchanges. Some figures within the sport felt that the criticism directed at Fury was justified, arguing that his aggressive comments and confrontational behavior often create unnecessary tension during events that are meant to promote boxing in a professional way. Others, however, suggested that the situation has been exaggerated by media attention and that outspoken personalities have always been part of the sport's long history. Despite these differing viewpoints, the discussion quickly spread throughout the boxing community, with trainers, analysts, former fighters, and promoters all weighing in on the situation and debating whether the feud was damaging or simply another example of the drama that frequently surrounds major personalities in boxing. Many observers noted that public rivalries like this often attract significant attention from fans, even when they are built more on verbal exchanges than actual fights in the ring. As the debate continued to circulate across interviews, podcasts, and social media discussions, it became clear that the disagreement between Froch and John Fury had evolved into a broader talking point about behavior, respect, and professionalism within modern boxing.
I like it.
That's great.
Yeah,
I mean,
it is. I mean, look, Froch, I'd like to see it go off, if I'm honest with you. Do you know what I mean?
You think it ever would?
John Fury's a big lump, but I'd actually back Carl Froch against virtually anyone on the cobbles. Do you know what I mean? So,
would you watch it on Misfit?
I wasn't expecting it, but I know that he blows up before press conferences and, he's just getting some steam off, blowing some steam off.
He said he wanted to fight you in your prime. Do you remember that?
Yes, he did. I remember that. And I was like, he's not serious, is he? We didn't really take him too serious, but he did offer them.
John chasing Carl down. I mean, it's just, I watched that and I was thinking, what did Carl do? Then I watched a couple of videos where Carl does have a go at Tyson. And I think, who fucked up there? Netflix. Why would you get someone that clearly doesn't really like Tyson on a Tyson card? Or at least in the studio to present. So you can understand why John's like, well, you're making money off my son fighting. No, I don't. I kind of get that. But also on my side, I was like, well, you can't even talk about anyone now without people getting upset. Now, if Carl can't talk about you as an ex-world champion, then fuck me, I do not have a chance. So it just kind of made me feel like everyone's a bit too sensitive, really. But look, I like like John. I like the Furies. I like all of them. I've always said that I think they bring so much excitement to the boxing game. Shane, Tyson, John, all their clan, Tommy. But they can't get upset at someone like Carl having an opinion. They should be able to have an opinion without someone screaming and shouting at you. That's my...
Fury, Ella, did you see any?
At a distance, with my binoculars on, something was going on. I'd imagine it's Carl having a go at the Furies, probably over his time on his channel, maybe, I'm guessing, and John didn't like that and wants to have a fight with him, something like that.
It was something like that. I don't think he was still necessarily turning down a fight.
What I do know is that John Fury and Carl Froch on the cobbles will be fun. I think they both have a good fun doing that, but I'm sure it's all fun and games. They like to say what they believe. They like to say something that's controversial, and they're two big characters, and we love having them around the sport. So let's leave them to work that one out.
I like John Fury. I've met him on a number of occasions, and I've always felt him to be a very educated voice around boxing. It's recent incarnation over the last 2 or 3 years of John becoming front and centre of the circus, like a Cirque du Soleil horror show. I think that's embarrassing. I think Carl Froch is putting in a video. By the way, Carl Froch is standing right there when he's saying, "Where is he?" Carl Froch is doing his first broadcast for Netflix. He doesn't want any of this. The one thing I don't think Carl Froch is frightened of is John Fury. I know it's theatrics. I know it's part of the show. I know it brings noise, and I suppose in its space it does its job. But is it not just a tad embarrassing?
Listen, you said it yourself. In its space, it does a job, and I think we live in that world today where now people, you know, it was a press conference that was always going to be maybe a little quiet because Makhmedov doesn't speak particularly great English. He's not really going to say too much. Tyson Fury done his thing, and he was talking about Anthony Joshua and the tragedy there and the circumstances for him coming back into boxing. That was all great. But that John Fury always adds a little bit of spice, and that's what gets people watching. So I suppose it's done its work. And you've got your own opinion on whether it was embarrassing or not embarrassing.
Is it good spice, Holly? Is it good spice?
I'll tell you what. Listen. From one side, I'm a fan of Netflix getting involved in boxing because it broadens it out in so many viewerships. But on the other end, I sometimes question what Netflix puts on, and I'm saying, do they really have the best interest of boxing? Or are they just looking for the clickbait of the moment? And when you're looking for the clickbait of the moment, this is yet another example of that. You know, the Furies have a lightning rod image. Obviously, Tyson backs it up. He can fight, okay? Yep. He's accomplished everything. But then you got this kind of thing here. You know, you make the point about Makhmedov's not really an opponent that's going to sell a fight either. You know, Fury's just coming back in as well. People love a train wreck, man. You know, I hate to say it. We're in a generation where the